So greetings, my name is Benoit Trudel and I'm here in Bangkok for a few days. I would like to do this video on this theme of Buddhism. So is Buddhism, what is it to begin with? And is it relevant today in this modern life where we have so much going on and I think so much suffering that we're experiencing in our lives? So how can Buddhism play a role in all of that? So I know it's a big topic. I'm gonna deal with it just based on my experience, based on my knowledge, and hopefully that can be of some use to you. So I would like to start with this question of what views, what opinions do you have about what is Buddhism, right? And so for myself, before I started to get into it deeply or earnestly, as I have for the past couple of years, I knew only general things about Buddhism, right? So I knew that there was this notion of suffering, that they talk about suffering, and I thought, okay, there's this notion about karma, that cause and effect. What else did I think about Buddhism? That basically we all have the potential for happiness, that there was something that was innate in us and not something that comes from a God which is outside of us, right? So roughly that's what I would say I knew about Buddhism. However, when we start to look at the Buddhist teaching, I don't want to say in depth, but closely, we find out that it's actually really very, I think for me, very relevant, because the Buddha was extremely pragmatic, extremely practical, right? So Buddhism for him was not a series of belief, of dogma, of if you believe that, then you will get to heaven or things like that. It was actually, it's a roadmap, right? He says, the Buddha said clearly, repeatedly, he said this, I teach two things. I teach about suffering and I teach about the end of suffering. Everything that he taught for 45 years is about that. About, are you able to have a practical experience so that you get to the end of suffering. So it's a practical experiential guide on how to do this, which is pretty amazing. So if I start, and so he did that with the first sermon, which is called the Four Noble Truths. So if you have a chance, please read that. It's a very simple sermon. So I'm just going to give you the highlights here because I think it's just so simple, but yet it is really deep. And if you actually use that as a roadmap, you have enough, this life, you'll be busy in this life to really implement or walk the path. Right? And the path in Buddhism is basically, for me, it's like a compass. It gives you some pointers, gives you some direction, and it's up to you to experiment. It's up to you to try it out. It's up to you to apply it to your life. It really is like that, right? And so let's start with the first noble truth. First noble truth is the importance to understand suffering. And you might think, oh gosh, why would I want to understand suffering? Because we avoid it. And when you avoid it, when you repress it, for good reason, because you don't know what to do with suffering. I get that. I've been there. I'm still there, right? But at the end of the day, understanding suffering, what does it mean? It means to let it be, to let it arise, to be with it, to hold it lightly. And when you hold it, when you're aware, you bring awareness to it, then it has the chance to transform and to change into a strength, a capacity, instead of being something that you're scared of that will make you unhappy. Right? So that's the first noble truth, where the Buddha says you experience whatever comes up in your life, whether it's good, you experience it and you let it go. Whether it's difficult, you experience it, you let it go. Whether you're telling yourself stories, delusions, you become aware of it, just like you would become aware of watching the clouds in the sky without reacting to it, right? So that's the first one. The second noble truth, and I know these by heart, but I still want to just look it up, so please forgive me. The second noble truth, which is so important, is what is the origin of suffering? So do you know? What causes suffering? And here, let me just reiterate, suffering, the word in Pali that was used is dukkha. Dukkha actually is much broader than suffering. Suffering is a generalization of the meaning of dukkha. Dukkha is everything on the spectrum from extreme suffering, so someone who has physical pain, all the way in the spectrum to very minor dissatisfaction, frustration, irritation. This whole spectrum of I'm not satisfied, I'm not happy with whatever is happening in my life. That is what we call dukkha, or suffering, as it's translated. And so the question to you is, do you know what is the origin of suffering? Because the Buddha says that the noble truth number 2 is to abandon, let go of the origin of dukkha. And the origin of suffering is craving. So it's wanting things to be either a certain way, wanting things to be to not be a certain way. So for example, I want to be a good person, I want to be a good parent, I want to be a spiritual person, I want to be kind, I don't want to be angry, I don't want to be a bad, I don't want to be broke, I don't want to be yelled at, I don't want to be in pain. So the list is absolutely endless. And what we don't realize is that we have automatism, we have habits that is just automatic. As soon as there's something that we like, we cling to it. We want more of it. If we're eating a good cake or we see a good cake and we're hungry, we're gonna want it. But it's not more than want it. It's just gonna be like a rage inside. Oh, I have to have this, right? And sometimes it seems to be for all the right reasons, right? Oh, I want a good job, I hate my job, I want a good job. And so there's this craving. And then when something bad happens, my boss yells at me and he gets angry, then we just want to push it, we react to it, we push it away. We spend our whole life doing that, just craving what we want and pushing away what we don't want, and the rest of the time we spend it in delusion, which is telling ourselves stories about I'm a bad person, I'm a good person, I'm this, I'm that, or I should tell her this, I should tell her that, and then the mind just goes on endlessly. So the craving needs to be abandoned, but to abandon it, you need to start with noble truth number 1, which is to see it. You need to see the craving as it's happening, the aversion as it's happening. If you don't see it, if it happens subconsciously and automatically, you'll never be able to change it. So that's why these 2 first noble truths are so important. Now, what is the third noble truth, which is so exciting, which is that the cessation or the end of suffering is possible. And you think, oh my God, how is that? And you think death. No. Death is not going to solve anything, I can assure you. Whatever state of mind you die with, whatever craving you die with, you're going to want to just take on a new body with those same craving, right? So death solves absolutely nothing. So how do, in this one, the third noble truth, they don't yet say the how, they just say that it's possible. It's possible to completely, totally overcome suffering, right? But that's the end of the spectrum, and it's also possible to just overcome, to end suffering slowly, bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit, which is how it happens for most of us, right? And so the number 4, which is the way and the path to overcome suffering. So how do you do it, right? Don't you want to know? Like I said, the Buddha's teaching is not a belief system, it's a practical guide. Like he's basically taking us by the hand, but he's saying you have to walk the path. I'm not going to walk it for you. So then for me, at least, I get really excited. I'm like, oh, great. What's the path, right? Well, here it is. The path is, we call it the Eightfold Path. And you might have heard about this, and even myself, I think I'd vaguely heard something about that. And I think that even in yoga, they talk about the 8 limbs of, I forget. But I mean, it's common, right? But to know what it is and how to apply it, now that is the key. So there are 8 factors, I think it's factors that we say here that we need to implement, and 3 levels. And so the first level, we say it's sila, or morality, right? So under sila, you have right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And so I think we live in a world where I think morality has gone out the door. It used to be more important maybe 20, 30 years ago, but now, I don't know, people just, I'll do what I want to do, and I want to be free to do what I want to do, right? And I think that when we look at morality, it's so important. It's so important. It's just basically what makes us human, what makes us different from animals, right? And so if you look at those first three, the right speech is to be aware of the impact that our speech has on other people. So right speech is just being aware of how we speak, right? And that way we can speak in more wholesome manner, maybe express ourselves with a little bit more kindness, a little bit more generosity, right? So bring just a little bit of awareness to that slowly, right? It doesn't happen overnight. And it's not about judging ourselves. It's just about having an aspiration to speak in a more wholesome manner. Right action here is about no killing, right? No stealing, and no sexual misconduct. So those are the three that are under right action. So no killing here, it means also no killing mosquitoes, no killing anything. So even I was a gardener, and all of a sudden I couldn't kill snails. I couldn't kill the Japanese beetles that was eating all of my fruit trees and stuff. And so, because everything is a sentient beings, and I admit that that's the one I have a hard time with, that's the one. Right? Because I tend to not see value in a mosquito or a fly's life. I have that tendency. And so that's the one that I've been working on, just to become more aware of it and to develop more of a sensitivity to the importance of all sentient beings. So no killing, no stealing. And you would think, oh, I don't steal. Yeah, but it's also not taking what is not offered. Right? So if you go to someone's house or you get somewhere, always ask, is it okay if I take this? Right? Ask. And no sexual misconduct. I will let you define what that means. I think it could mean different things to different people, but I think if we have a sexual life, then have that be wholesome, have that be fulfilling, right? So this is the first three steps, which is what we call morality or sila. Then the second step is what we call mental discipline or samadhi or composure. And this is also made up of three different factors. One is right effort, right? So if you say that you want to somehow be rid of suffering or end suffering, what kind of effort are you putting forth for that to happen? Are you meditating? Are you having some moments of silence? What are you doing? Right? So there is some effort that is required. Right concentration. Well, if I'm meditating and I keep planning for my week and my life during meditation, I do need to develop some kind of concentration where somehow we're just letting go of the thoughts. We're not trying to stop thinking, because that's not possible. Just letting go, coming back to the meditation object, to the breath. Right? So that's right concentration, and I can assure you, after 2-3 years of doing this, it doesn't come overnight. And I'm sure you can imagine that, but it's hard, because our whole life, our mind has been like a monkey, just going in all directions for all good reasons. It feels justified to do this and to do that, and we have all of these running speeches and monologues going on in our heads. Right? So to get to a focus. But think of this as anyone who's a diver, a violinist. There are some professions out there where they have to develop this really focused concentration. Like a diver is the one that really comes to mind. Like if he's thinking about what he's going to eat for lunch, that dive is just going to flop, that's for sure. And so it's a skill to develop, and it is possible to do it, right? And it does take time and effort. And the third one of this section, we're at 6 now, is mindfulness. So once we have concentration, then we have more mindfulness. Mindfulness is the same as, I would say, it's synonymous with awareness. I'm just aware of what's happening right now with this body, with the mind. I'm aware, right? And so we don't realize this, and really we don't, that whenever we're lost in our train of thoughts, when we get lost in a train of thoughts, we're not even aware that we're thinking, we just get lost in a train of thought. And so once we start to meditate, we become aware that we're thinking or that a thought is arising, and just the awareness makes the thought dissipate. The lack of awareness makes the thought just proliferate. Okay, so mindfulness is key. And then we get to the third level, which is wisdom. So wisdom is represented by two things, which is right intention and right view. So right intention is basically the intention of renunciation, so to live simply, right? To have less, to reduce the desires, the cravings, to have goodwill, and also to be harmless, right? Harmlessness. So, and so having that intention, and intention is so fleeting, it's something that from moment to moment we have to rekindle, right? And right view, what is right view is basically the understanding of the Four Noble Truths, the understanding of how suffering is caused, and I could also go into the three characteristics, but I won't talk about that too much. But the three characteristics are so fundamental to Buddhism. One is anicca, that everything is impermanent. So once we see that everything arises and ceases, there's nothing that's permanent, then why hold on to anything? Why? Everything, and it's not like a fatalistic, it just creates a bit of more detachment and freedom. And the second one is dukkha, that everything is suffering, and so then to let go of that. And the last one is everything is not self. So contrary to yogic thinking that there is Atman or a soul, in Buddhism there is no soul. There is no Atman that will survive forever. There is, however, a mental state that we have with all of the cravings, all the aversions, all of the illusions, and all of the identity that we have, the illusion of identity that we have about ourselves, which makes it that when we die, those cravings, that mental state, will compel us to reincarnate into another body, to take on another body, and no, just to continue basically what we're doing. So whatever mental state you die with in this life, when you die, that mental state is going to look for another body, right? And ultimately what happens with evolution is that the more that there is detachment, the more that we let go of all of these cravings, you get to a point where there is no craving, there is no aversion, there is no self-identity, and there is no reason to be reborn again, which is what nibbana or nirvana is about. So just to do a bit of recap, and I know this might seem long to most people, so we have the three levels. We have morality, which is right speech, right action, right livelihood. We have mental discipline, which is right effort, right concentration, right mindfulness. And we have wisdom, which is right intention and right view. So that's the path, right? So in Buddhism, this is really about using this as a compass and every day keeping this in mind, right? This Eightfold Path, so that we can bring awareness to it, and we can use these to steer our choices and our intentions and our efforts to bring more mindfulness and more wisdom, because what's going to help us to let go of suffering is wisdom, okay? So how do we do that? Well, practically. So it comes back full circle to, is Buddhism still relevant today? And for me, I say yes. It's up to you to decide for yourself whether it's relevant for your life. And so how would you start about applying Buddhism? I would say start with Sila. And Sila is basically the 5 precepts, which is no killing, no lying, no stealing, no drugs or intoxicant, and then no sexual misconduct. So if you keep that in mind every day, what that does, it calms the mind. It calms the mind. It gives a foundation of calmness to the mind. So that's the first step. The second step is meditation. So you can start with 15 minutes, and at first your body, your back, your legs will kill you, and then you can increase to 20 minutes and 30 minutes, and if you can increase to an hour. What helps is the regularity, so it's better to do it every day, I think, than to do it just once in a while or once a week. I find for myself that the best time to meditate is not at 7 a.m. when you already have to run out the door and people are waking up in the house. For me, the best time to meditate was always I get up earlier. So you get up at 6 or you get up at 5, and that way everybody's sleeping, nobody expects anything from you, everything is quiet, everything is peaceful. So that's a great time to meditate. Sometimes in the evening it's difficult because again, we're busy with other people and we've had such a stressful day that to sit down is more difficult. So it's up to you to see, but regularity I think is important, and it's up to you how much time you put into meditation. And then the next step is that you could then start to study the Buddhist teaching. And there's different ways you can do that. Obviously, you can do that with a book, but to give a foundation to your practice, I think is important. So you can either read books, or you can go online. There's so many amazing websites that have Dhamma talks. And I'll share with you my favorite. My favorite is called Clear Mountain. Clear Mountain is in Seattle. It's two monks who are quite young, in their 30s, I think, Ajahn Nisabo, Ajahn Kovilo, who are starting a monastery, and they've been doing that for 4 years now, developing the community, and they've done these online interviews with amazing people like Joseph Goldstein, Shalaya Catherine, and so many, and Rodney Smith. And these interviews are just so interesting, so interesting. So that motivates me every day as to why I do this. It helps also to have a shift in view. It's so nourishing, right? So find a place, find somewhere, find a group, and now with the internet, I mean, we can talk against IT in so many ways, and the social woos of social media, but there's also lots of good stuff to it. So I would say get yourself immersed in contact with the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha. And if you can, well, you can support monastics, right? So there are places where you can go. So here in the Toronto area, you can go to Tisarana, Thunder Bay, where we have Arrow River Hermitage, and then you can look up, and there are different Buddhist monasteries. And so now I won't get into, of course, there are different types of Buddhism. There might be a Tibetan, there's the Goenka, there's Zen. And so it really is completely up to you to explore which type of Buddhism you feel more attracted to. I can honestly tell you that there are different ways of approaching the mountain to end suffering. And so some of them might resonate more with you. For me, Mahayana does not resonate as much at this point. I find it very abstract from the get-go to talk about emptiness. I know it's true, I know it's real, but I need to see the steps that take me to the emptiness first, right? So for me, that's my path. And Tibetan Buddhism, I don't know very much about that. It doesn't resonate for me, but it doesn't mean that it won't resonate for you. So find, if you can, a physical place, or what do we say, an internet, or way to link with these communities. So this is it for me. I think that what I like about Buddhism in a nutshell is the simplicity of the teaching and the depth of the teaching. There's no bullshit in true Buddhism. It's extremely simple, and it's something you can apply with your life, and it's up to you how you apply it and what you get from it. And I think there's a lot of shouting that's happening, so it's probably a good time to end this video. To wish you well, sadhu, and thank you for listening. If you managed to listen 23 minutes, my goodness, that's so long. All right, take care. Ciao.